shine, I got splendor. I'm the real thing and not a pretender. You get the nerve to pop the fatal question. I'm taking the time to make a small suggestion. Write a will for your family's conveniency. Rappers I serve without mercy or leniency. No frame of mind, no heart, I'm relentless. Step to me, I'm knocking you senseless. I planted my seeds, so don't try to uproot me. You do better trying to straight up shoot me. I'm not just a writer, I'm a real idealist. It won't be long until you're trying to steal this. Make your head swell till your eyes start to dilate. Yeah, sucker, you better not violate. Not one MC in the world, I'm afraid. I have you screaming my name like a girl when I slayed her. This is the long, cause I can't take a short take. Softer than cream between pieces of shortcake. There's no chance of you having a mistrial. The very next time that I get dissed out, sit back and write a rhyme stronger than Hercules. Funky parts, I go back and I circle these. Put them together, fix the conjunctions, and I'm a bust rhyme so my brain malfunctions. Dare to degrade my name, that's perjury. War's declared, so prepare to have surgery. Cut you with a rhyme of such a high fidelity. Give a kick like a rolling and use it soft as a melody. Since you chalk, my rhymes will erase. You want a piece of that ass so bad I could taste you. Face rappers from whack, ill to even notorious. You may be clever, you'll be never victorious. I feel free now that I cleared this. How could I fell off, boy? I helped pioneer this.
Now, I'll come back and unpack that later because there's a lot of material that I want to go over and I want to get right into it. Now, M.C.Shan, in my opinion, is criminally underrated, but it's of no doing of his own. He's underrated due to circumstances beyond his control and mostly his timing. For those who remember, M.C.Shan was the man in this game from about 85 to 87 lyrically. But you had Rakim make his entrance about 86. Big Daddy Kane make his entrance about 86, 87. LL was always a threat lyrically, or at least lyrical competition. And then you had Kool G Rap coming to his own about 88 or so. In addition to that, M.C.Shan put his toe in the water right around 85 as far as records go. So Shan debuted right around the time that LL Cool J started to have some commercial success. Def Jam Records was really picking up steam. We had the last parts of Sugar Hill Records with the Treacherous 3 and Grandmaster Melly Mel and his new Furious 5. And then, unfortunately, within that time period of about 1986 to about 88, when Shan released his second LP, Born to Be Wild, there was a whole new school of MCs who had not only risen up, but they had taken dominance over the lyrical part of the rap game. I can distinctly remember being in Brooklyn in 1988, and the Born to Be Wild LP had already been released, and it was getting minimal airplay and minimal play in the streets as well, but it should have been a lot hotter than it was. But it was getting drowned out not only by Rakim releasing his second LP, Follow the Leader, and new proficient MCs seem to be popping up every time we turned around. So I'm not one who's of the opinion that the battle with BDP or KRS-One in particular is what ended Shan's career. The Born to Be Wild album, to me, was superior almost in every way to his first album, Down by Law. The production had been stepped up considerably. His rhyme style and rhyme skills, to me, have been stepped up considerably. Again, I can't stress enough, Shan was the victim of his timing in the industry and everything that happened in the industry. And maybe if Born to Be Wild had come out right after Down by Law, this would be a different conversation. In the early days of the internet, before we had what's called social media, there were message boards. And I can remember going to hip-hop message boards and bringing up M.C.Shan and how brilliant he was. And I was almost getting tomatoes thrown at me for bringing up M.C.Shan in a positive way lyrically. And one of the overwhelming things that I got from people was that I didn't like his voice. I never really listened because his voice, I couldn't get past his voice. And he was the worst in the Juice Crew. And I'm like, no, it's like, you know, his voice never bothered me. But to say that he was the worst in the Juice Crew, no way. Again, he was at one point the premier person of the Juice Crew before Kane came in and before Kool G Rap really got his legs under him and really found his style. But at this point, it's neither here or there. The intent of this presentation is to go through the lyrics of M.C.Shan and show and prove that he was not a mediocre MC. Now, you may not have liked every song. You may have felt that the Bridge Wars destroyed him or whatever your feelings were. But I'm going to attempt to go through lyrically and show you that Shan was definitely a top-tier MC. So here we go. M.C.Shan first came across my radar in 1985 with a song called A Marley Scratch. My man TDP, who's actually one of my musical collaborators, came up to me back in 85 with this record on Nia Records, and he had just got from, I think, Connecticut with this record. And I remember Nia Records mainly for the Aleem brothers and their work. That was actually their record label, but they had released Release Yourself and a few more records. And I'm not sure if some of the Sparky D and Roxanne stuff, I'm pretty sure that had already been released on Nia Records. In fact, by 85, it would have had to have. But I really had never heard of M.C.Shan. Definitely had heard of Marley Marl from the Dimples D record and other things that he had done. But M.C.Shan I'd never really heard of. So we put the record on, and I was immediately blown away. The drum machine beats, the programming of the beats, and his cadence was what really grabbed me right out of the gate.
All of his beats and my rhymes attached. Form the new creation called a Marley Scratch. We're always steered at a positive course. His beats, my rhymes combine made force. I say it's like a force cause the force is strong. And if you think we're weak, I'd say you're wrong. All your other DJs are a bunch of jerks. Marley, give them an example how a DJ works. I never got caught in the game of tag. My name is M.C.Shan, no need to brag. MC brag about the self all through their rhyme. You can see I got quality, won't waste my time. If I did not mean it, I wouldn't have said it. I'm gonna give the man behind the wheel some credit. I'm not trying to say that he can't be beat, but Marley Marl can stand on his own 2 feet. Since the DJ like him is so in demand, Marley, won't you get on and show him where you stand? The M is for master of scratch, and if the needle was to slip, it's the needle he'll catch. The A is the letter that you set apart. I wouldn't call his beats music, I would call it art. The R just stand for the way he rock, which is 24/7 around the clock. The L is for lyrics that I write. When put to his music sounds out of sight. The E is for every beat he make, which sucker DJs persist to take. Don't play with the Y cause it isn't a game. You ask why did he put the other DJs to shame? After this there shouldn't be a story to tell. At the end of that is M-A-R-L. This paragraph here has come to an end. Marley, can we hear your funky fresh scratching again? Marley.
A lot of dopeness in that song upon first hearing it back in 85. First of all, like I said, just the big beat sound of it. That drum machine sound was dominant. It was what Def Jam had been doing for about a year. And then Shan's cadence. All these beats and his rhymes attached. Forming a new creation called a Marley Scratch. We always steered at a positive course. His beats, my rhyme combine a force. It was like a really monotone. It's funny that Shan teased Rakim in the studio behind his back with Marley Marl because Rakim's voice was so radical at the time that he wasn't taken seriously because, Run had the growl at that point and you had LL with the growl and everybody was doing the ultra, just the ultra hyper type of voice, and Rakim had a laid-back voice, so Shan and Marley Marl, who were engineering and co-producing the session, they found it funny. And a lot of us found Rakim's voice a little funny until we saw, oh, okay, it ain't funny, But anyway, Shan also, at the time, upon hearing his voice, it was very monotone for what was dominant at that time. Again, remember, 85 is, Run DMC putting out their second album, and they're flying high with the King of Rock album. LL's flying high with Radio, with I Can't Live Without My Radio. And everybody's doing the, kind of growl. And for Shan to come in laid back and monotone, it was different for the time. I thought he was really fly when he said, I never got caught in the game of tag. My name is M.C.Shan, no need to brag. It was like the braggadocio of, rappers, or MCs rhyming about, I can do this, I can do that. And he's taking it all the way back. He's so cool that even when he was younger, he was the shit. He never even got caught when he played tag. I thought that was really fly. I thought his cadence was fly. I thought it was fly how at the time it was popular to big up your DJ in detail. Like when I talked about LL and Cut Creator on Dangerous in the LL lesson, why LL the MC was the name of it. If you check that lesson, I talked a lot about at that time that was a prerequisite, that was mandatory. Before you even went to record your full-length album, you had to have at least one song talking about your DJ and the skills of how good your DJ was. And Shan took that Next Level with Marley Scratch and dedicated that whole song to how dope Marley was. He said a few lines about how dope he was. It was all about Marley. And then to spell his name out like he did, again, may not seem like a big deal now to people who aren't familiar with what was normal at the time, but that was next level. That was a new thing coming in from Run DMC's era, which I call the middle school era, and I call the first recorded cats the original era. And then like the middle school era was that drum machine or drum based stuff that Run DMC and a lot of profile artists were doing. And then Shan, really his arrival was the beginning of that Juice Crew era and what many consider the golden age. And we started to see the sampling about to come in about a year or so later. So anyway, Shan really ushered in a lot of stuff, new things with this particular recording. So myself being one who was always checking for lyrics, since day one, Shan definitely was on my radar quite a bit at that time. Now, in '85, he also had a release on MCA Records called Heal the World. I didn't like it at all. I didn't like anything about it. I didn't like the music. I didn't like the rhymes. I guess he was trying to do something good with the positive message. I don't know what the motivation was. I interviewed Shan years ago, more than a decade ago, and we talked about it, and I just don't recall what the motivation behind that record was. But the most noteworthy thing about that song was that's the reason why KRS-One said in their infamous battle, you got knocked off or dropped off MCA because the rhymes you wrote was whack. It was because he was on MCA when he did Feed the World, and he just did a one-off single on MCA. Just not a good song to me.
We have to solve this problem. It's all out of hand. Feed the starving children all across the land. It's a luxury to us to eat what we made, but they might just get a meal one time a day. We need the help from every man, woman, boy, and girl. Stop the starvation and feed the world. 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 None of this is fiction. It's an actual fact. They can't eat or afford to put clothes on their back. That's why we're out on this here mission to try to stop the famine and the malnutrition. All you really have to do is put in your share. The contributions by UNICEF or either care. So a lot of
Okay, I honestly have not listened to that record more than 2 or 3 times since I bought it. And it doesn't sound as bad as it did upon first listening, but I still don't like it. But so that was that little piece of history. And again, really only worthwhile, ironically, because KRS-One dissed Shan about that record. Now, am I talking to Shan? What I remember about his next release, the reason for it, was I think that Shan, I know Shan and LL were doing shows together because they were getting hot about the same time. And I want to say it was Connecticut. That's what I'm not clear on. I want to say maybe Connecticut or somewhere they had a show. And Shan actually played Marley Scratch for LL. This is my new record, check it out. And LL, replied he thought it was dope. You didn't say dope back then, but he liked it or whatever. And that was the end of it. Then LL came out with Rock the Bells. Now, Rock the Bells, the drum pattern on the Rock the Bells that we heard first, the one that had the Double Trouble break beat from Trouble Funk, and what's called the original Rock the Bells, they both have an identical, the drum programming on it is identical. But the version Shan was talking about was the version that we actually heard on the radio album. And it is the same drum pattern. Now, I can't say that LL remembered that show in Connecticut and kept that beat in his head and went and said, hey, I'm gonna use that. I don't know how it happened. I know there weren't but so many drum patterns at the time, and there are several records with a similar, that's that old 85 drum machine, big beat drum pattern that was out there. So I'm not saying that Shan is lying, and I'm also not saying that LL bit the beat. I don't know if it's something that Rick Rubin came up with independent of LL. But what I do know is that the next record that Shan made was Beat Biter, and it was directed towards LL. And the flip side was The Bridge. So we talking a monumental 12-inch at this time. And at the time, the first time I heard it was on a tape, a Marley tape from BLS that I gotten from a friend in New York. Again, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I knew this would be a classic or whatever. We never knew that back then, that something was gonna be a classic. I always say a classic cannot be deemed as such until decades after its release. And then you have to measure the relevance those decades after, its influence on culture, pop culture, the genre, and everything else, and then it's deemed as a classic. There's no such thing as an instant classic, although people try to say that. But I did know it was a special record, and when I heard Beat Biter, I just had to keep rewinding it, because not only did I think that, okay, he did a good job of getting that L, it's just a dope record. The way that he phrased it, not just saying, hey, you stole my beat, just the way that he did it. It was just dope.
Let me rock this rhyme only if I may. It's directed to my man LL Cool J. Your brand new jam sure does sound sweet. You rock the bells, but you stole my beat. CJ Marley Marl and I M.C.Shan. Me and Marley Marl, we designed it well. You added some percussion, though we could not tell. It will be my glory to tell this story. It will even be rocked in your territory. Think it's so slick that they can't be greased. What I really hate most, beat biting MC. To make their own will be a total waste. Let me tell you what happened in this one case. Turned on the radio station of my choice when I heard my beat with the next man's voice. Put it on tape and I played it again. It just couldn't be, so I asked my friend. He didn't want to hurt my feelings, so he said, I guess. Played it one more time, homeboy said yes. I got so mad that I wanted to scream, but I sat and wrote a rhyme to release my steam. It just so happened that we met someplace. I confronted this beat biter face to face. I asked, did he do it? And of course he denied. So I had to say, homeboy, I let that slide. To this here story, there is no end. I'm just waiting for the sucker kid to do it again. I was just so shocked when I heard his cut. I called this girl everything but a sleazeback slut. Beat fighters I devour like a 3-course meal. So be careful next time whose beats you steal. That's not really what this song is about. But if you steal my beats, I'm taking you out.
Yeah, I thought that was everything back then, and we all thought it was everything. That one got heavy rotation in the boombox, and at the time, it really wasn't a big deal because LL wasn't monumental enough. LL was brand new, really. He had done "I Need a Beat," which definitely got some traction, and he had just done Radio, the album, and "Rock the Bells" was new, so he was just rising, and we were just beginning to see how great he was, but he wasn't great yet in stature or anything else. He was coming up. So it wasn't ballsy at the time, like, oh, Shan had a nerve to, to diss LL. It just wasn't a thing like that. He just went at him, and he went at him, hard. It wasn't a thing, he called him by name, wasn't a subliminal at all. So that was a big deal at the time. Again, we didn't see it as ballsy, but it was a big deal, and it was a well done record.
I'm a rhyme writer, Marley mixes my cut. I adore fly girls and I spit on sluts. I hold the rap population in the palm of my hand. Little children saying, Ma, I wanna be like Shan. I got the knowledge to know, the wisdom to speak. The understanding of my rhymes is at its fullest peak. There were a lot of MCs that tried to rip, but they wound up on the slabs as an MC. Stick of typographical errors. God bless the dead.
Now, I saw fit to put that little snippet in because, Shan hit you with the 1, 2, 3, and everybody that's familiar with the mathematics of the 5% and the nation of gods and earth knows that, he said I got the knowledge to know, the wisdom to speak, the understanding of my rhyme is at its fullest peak. That was an early display of that kind of mathematics. It would be probably 2 or 3 years before you started hearing a whole lot of that kind of mathematics on record. I think the first to really, really dab into it was probably world famous Supreme Team, my man Just Allah, the superstar, and C Divine, the mastermind, world famous. They were early on wax with dropping that knowledge. Live off the first law of nature, self-preservation. If the show don't help you, change the station. And you might have had some MCs that dropped it here and there, but Shan was definitely early in that modern day era of dropping those little jewels. And Shan actually told me that he was 5%, and he went by the name of Shan Do Allah at the time. But I thought that was worth mentioning there. So the flip side of the record, that's a hell of a classic 12-inch because we didn't know what the bridge was gonna bring as far as its impact on the genre and production-wise. This is one of Marley's earliest. His technique of chopping up the drums, and I definitely can't get into that, but if you go and you Google or go to YouTube and look for his, I forgot what he calls them, special recipes or whatever he calls it, he goes and shows you how he actually makes his records, how he made the classic records anyway. And if you know about break beats and Impeach the President by the Honey Drippers, he took that record and he isolated and chopped I guess I am going into it, the kick and snare, and he replayed it the way he wanted to do it. I mean, he replayed it based on their record, but his own pattern. And that wasn't a big deal at the time, and it wasn't even really known to a lot of people at the time that that's what he did. But that would change production. It was one of the first times, maybe the first time, I can't remember, but definitely one of the first times he did it, and that ushered in the production side of the golden era, was that technique that he did and probably debuting on the bridge. And then, of course, I'm not going to get into the bridge because everybody knows the bridge. Everybody knows what the bridge represented. As far as the answer to that would be KRS coming back to him and them going back and forth, and the bridge wars, the infamous bridge war started. So the only part of the bridge that I do want to actually re-examine at this time is the last verse, because it had nothing to do, it almost didn't fit on the record. It's like, okay, why'd you put this last verse? Or as the last verse? But it was a really good verse, and it was a really positive, almost like a motivational speech almost. And I thought it was a real good verse at the time. Like I said, it was kind of odd, and I didn't get a chance to ask him, why'd you put this on the end of this record? Because it really didn't fit with everything else. But it just, it came off well.
Dead dreams, bought and sold. You gotta try and receive your goal. However you do it, however you may. Don't never listen to what somebody say. Cause I will tell you the deal. You gotta go by what your heart feels. Cause if you don't, you'll be misled by stupid little things put inside your head. By someone else that you will see. They're trying to lead your destiny. By the time you think about it, you're grown. Then you say, God damn, I gotta lead my own. Grab hold of your heavy chain, which people always pulling, always trying to restrain. You heard just what I said. They're always pulling you back when you want to get ahead. They pull you back cause they're not with it. You talking about school, they're talking about quit it. Soon you see that time goes fly, but you spent most of it out getting high. Thought about it much, much later. Could've went to school and been much greater, but you chose to lead that fate. Now you're sucking on a bone when it should have been steak. The whole purpose of the story I told was mainly to inspire you to reach your goal. Stop walking through life as if you are blind. You should reach for your goal, cause I'm reaching for mine, and I'm from the bridge.
That was definitely a monumental 12-inch record. And let me backtrack a little bit on Beat Biter. Two things. I thought it was kind of dope on the cadence that Shan used when he was getting the LL. When he said, it'll be my glory to tell this story. It'll even be rocked in your territory. He was mocking the cadence that LL used on I Need a Beat when he said there's no category for this story. It will rock in any territory. So that was pretty nice that at the time Shan was getting that L and mocking him, with his own cadence from his record. Something that really, personal battles like that, or personal, it really wasn't a battle, but personal disses like that on record, outside of the Roxanne stuff, which was had its own momentum, it was almost its own genre of answer record. Outside of that, it hadn't been done much on record, the back and forth. So Shan had a couple of wars he was involved in, just coming in the game. He came in the game at war with giants. Even though they weren't giants yet, they would be giants at some point. And also on Beat Biter, I thought it was dope. A lot of the lyrics were dope, but when he said, if they elected presidents for fresh rhymes that they wrote, I'd be the winner hands down, they'd abolish the vote. I mean, early display of just, beyond what was going on at the time. Again, we have to keep context when we do these, when we go back into these lyrics, and we have to know what was available at the time, because for those who may not be as familiar with that time period or not familiar at all, they might say, oh, that's nothing, that ain't nothing compared to today or whatever. But it wasn't today, it was that day, and you have to see what else was available and what else was being said at the time, and that's how you rate how superior it was by what was available at the time. So moving on, Shan did his full-length LP titled Down by Law, and it was released in 1987. And by this time, the South Bronx record had dropped by Boogie Down Productions, and of course that one was basically KRS-One and Boogie Down Productions calling out Shan, saying, hey, on the bridge, you said that hip-hop started in the bridge. That's another whole lesson. I haven't done my KRS-One lesson yet, which is definitely coming. And I want to do a whole thing on the Bridge Wars. I'm not sure that I will because, other people got involved in that. You had Brooklyn blew up the bridge and South Bronx helped us out. Yeah, all these different people jumping in on it. So that deserves its own, mini lesson on its own. But I don't want to delve too deep into that history, but it is relevant that songs like Kill That Noise are directly created for that purpose of answering back to something that the other party said. So, with the Down by Law LP 1987, one of the standouts, of course, was the title track, Down by Law. Dope record all around, production-wise. You can't go wrong with Daisy Lady by Seventh Wonder, that break beat. And, Marley was definitely coming into his own, building up that reputation, as the go-to cat. And, the Juice Crew is definitely gaining momentum. And, the house is coming, the foundation of the house of the Juice Crew is coming along at that point. And Shan, he still got that cadence that, all his beats, some of rhymes are chill, and then he's back once again, ready to get ill. And, he's just going at his detractors and those that said, that he can't hold a throne, hold a crown. And I thought that was a dope record. And then on that same album, he had Kill That Noise, which was the response to KRS-One.
Devastating to your ear.
Rhyming is a thing that I do at will. Be glad to rock a party just to prove my skill. J.U. Ice is what I'm gaining with the style so fresh that it's self-explaining. Never bite a rhyme, I don't live that way. But when I get dissed, violators pay. I'm a crowd motivator, MC annihilator. Never front the move cause I'm not a perpetrator. I don't really mind being criticized for those who try to make fame on my name. Guys, rhymes of all styles, all categories. From fresh freestyles to real fly stories. The jam is dedicated to you and your boys. And if you knew what I knew, then you kill that, kill that. I'm so fly, girls can't resist. But a man can understand, so he gets pissed. Like a preacher at work, where she hurt, I'll heal her. I'll leave you sleep and believe I'll steal her. My mama used to say, be a ladies' man. I used to always wonder why she named me Shan. Not hard to pronounce, easy to spell. And oh, how I love it when the ladies yell. A man better chill when my jacket's unzipped. I got a 25 with an 8-shot clip. You're saying to yourself that's a BB gun, but the place that I'ma shoot you, it'll just take one. I rip it into parts, little pieces and specs. You'll be saying to yourself what could happen next. This jam is dedicated to you and your boys, but if you knew what I knew, then you kill that noise.
At that point, Shan is continuing to hold his own, I got a 25 with an 8-shot clip. You saying to yourself that's a BB gun, but the place I'ma shoot you, it'll just take one. An unfortunate precursor to what would actually come to pass with rhyming. We were seeing the remnants of some of what would happen later. Some of those weeds were starting to grow back in the days, and it was innocent fun back then, and it was cool. But the gunplay talk did, to me, it rose to the point of it kind of got out of hand. But that was a dope line, and I rip you into parts, little pieces and specs. You wonder to yourself what happened next. Again, he's holding his own at that point against KRS-One, and it continued on after that. Also on the LP was Left Me Lonely, which for the age I was at the time, And just it was different. We had love raps before, and we had Spoonie G with the love rap, which wasn't really a love rap, but he called it a love rap. And LL had made his efforts to I talked about that in the LL lesson to do his love song. They were very beat heavy, where he was just he hadn't done I Need Love yet, I don't think, at this point. In fact, he hadn't. And just this was different because it was more musical. And still, Shan's a lyricist, and he's telling the story of a chick who left him, and he's telling it, as a vulnerable story, but he's still making it dope, and it was well appreciated. And of course, he had T.J. Swan, who was killing it on the hook.
She used to tell me that she loved me all the time. I turned to her and say that I'm infatuated by a lovely smile, and someday soon we're gonna walk the aisle. She said, you're my everything, my strength for life. Be the mother of your children as well as your wife. She used to tell me all the time I'm her one and only, but she ran with another man and left me lonely. Girl that I know named Jane. She used to be cool, now the girl's insane. Now all Jane does is walk around all day saying, beam me up, Scotty, take me away. Now I remember Jane from back in the day when she used to go to school getting all straight A's. Now you see Jane on the street corner, stopping any car anytime she wanna. Whatever went wrong, the facts remain, but who could think this would have happened to sweet old Jane? Tragic one. She started getting hot cause she said it was fun. There was no party, just a meeting of friends, and then the question arose, who got ends? It went around and had 300 in all. Somebody yelled out, we're gonna have a ball. Steve grabbed the money and ran down the block, came back and said, y'all take a look at this rock. She was getting into some heavy that night. Hurry up quick, somebody give me a light. Someone said, oh, and he was pulling too fast, but Jane was amused while the smoke of the glass. She was tickled to death at the face they made. Put fire to the glass, don't you think it will break? In a flick of a flash, the torch was lit. She put it to her mouth and she took a hit. Smoke rushed from her lungs and up to her brain. This was the beginning of the end of Jane.
Yeah, so that was pretty groundbreaking of Shan at the time to actually cover drug use, specifically crack cocaine use at that time, because I think crack had been prominent for maybe a couple years when he made Jane Stop This Crazy Thing. Another interesting point on that record was you could hear the intro from the Jetsons and the hook. The intro from that cartoon when George Jetson says, Jane, stop this crazy thing, when he's on a little treadmill type thing he's on. And apparently there's an issue with Hanna-Barbera and the record label, Warner Brothers Cold Chillin' at the time, because they stopped production on that particular version of the song. Then another version came out where there's a regular voice saying it, and it's not the George Jetson voice. So I always found that interesting back at the time. So again, that was a pretty revolutionary step to actually handle drug use in that way at that time, because people really weren't talking about crack at that time, not even celebrating selling it yet. Hadn't even got to the point, and of course it would get to the point where we would celebrate selling crack, but at that point people weren't really touching crack. So he's a little bit ahead of his time on that one. And he got really graphic with the 12-inch picture cover, which is very rare now. You have the 12-inch that has the picture cover, and it definitely showed you what it was at the time. Project Ho was another standout on that album, and lyrically it definitely had some bright moments. You know, it's basically telling the story of a loose chick in the projects, but I don't have time at this point to really get into Project Ho like I would like to. I like to get to the second album, which was Born to Be Wild, and the second album was a step up, as I mentioned before, on every level. Production was stepped up significantly, and rhyme style was stepped up significantly, and he was using a lot more of what I've talked about in several lessons, that Kool Moe Dee / Rakim style of rhyming multiple words with one word or multiple words with several words. Shan was really getting deep into that, and he had been doing it before, but he got a lot deeper into it on Born to Be Wild, and Born to Be Wild was an excellent album.
Stand tall and brave, and me and Marley always as close as a shade. My rhymes lock jaw like a pit bull bite. Suckers always try to sleep on me cause I look light. See a lot of whack rappers try to rack their brains, steal a style of MC. Come on, break these chains. Speak now or hold your peace when I decide to pass it. But every rhyme you ever had can never surpass it. If rhymes were food, the main source for living, you would swear that every line of my rhyme was Thanksgiving. I don't bite styles, weak rhymes, I don't need them. Stop jocking me, boy. Give me my freedom. Virtually spotless, and all year long I've been scheming and plotting this. If beats were cakes, then my rhymes get frosted. This is 88 and I still ain't lost it. For all of those who still got a doubt in their mind, there ain't a rapper living bad enough to take mine. There ain't no studio illusion and no scratch sinking. Stop! If that's what you're thinking, write rhymes simultaneous, the same in pairs. And I would hate to have a rapper proclaim it theirs instead of coming in a limo, bringing casket and hearse. Before we speak, we'll hear the preacher from the deacon first. We won't be gathered that day to unite.
And that was the first thing that we had heard from Shan in a while was Freedom, and that was definitely excellent use of Get Up and Dance by Freedom as the backdrop or the bed for that on Marley Marl on the production. And that was also the only contribution that Shan made to Marley Marl's In Control Volume 1 LP, which of course had the classic Symphony, which Shan wasn't a part of. So Shan definitely held his own on that song. It's a nice comeback for Shan. We hadn't heard anything from him in a minute, and it would be a little taste of what was going to be on the Born to Be Wild album. That's the first thing we heard from the Born to Be Wild LP. Again, that was a dope album, and he showed a lot more versatility on that album than he did on the previous. And one of the songs where he really showed some versatility was Back to the Basics. Back to the Basics has that old school multi-syllabic flow, kind of in the fashion of Jalal from The Last Poets, aka Lightning Rod, when he did Hustlers Convention, when he was it was a full moon in the middle of June. You know, everything is like double. That's how Shan rhymed on Back to the Basics. That's an old school kind of sing-songy style that a lot of MCs used to do, but he definitely brought it to life on the record.
Might have took a while, but you knew I had to hit you with the brand new funky rhyme. This you already know, so I'm ready to go. Marla hit me with the beat one time. Right now I'm gonna introduce myself so y'all know just who I be. All you suckers in the house, stay quiet as a mouse. Instead of Shan, call me Mr. MC. I'm going back to the basics. Just a young boy, whoever would have thought I'd grow up to be an MC. But my rhymes are so nice that they pay my price, because fortune and fame ain't free. These words I'm reciting are written in a style that you ain't heard in a long time. And a song like this will make a rapper reminisce about the days when he was in his prime. Yet, what made you think I would? How many times does it take all the rappers I break and you still don't think I'm good? This girl in my class tried to move too fast when she tried to pull down my zipper. Well, things got strange when the whole scene changed and I all out tried to strip her. Teacher stepped in between, sent me straight to the dean. That's where I thought my journey ended. Call moms up to school, are you some fool? And forget about being suspended. You went back to the basics.
So definitely, that's definitely an old style, and he resurrected and made modern on that album. And I always did love that song, production-wise and his delivery. And like I said, the sing-songy, old school style that he brought back on that.
But the thrill of
Shan said, I dare you to take any part of the rhyme or the kick drum sound. I'll be meeting you, defeating you, and beating you down. That's technique. And Shan always has been one to flow with technique like that.
The way I shine, I got splendor. I'm the real thing and not a pretender. You get the nerve to pop the fatal question. I'm taking the time to make a small suggestion. Write a will for your founder's conveniency. Rappers I serve without mercy or leniency. No frame of mind, no heart, I'm relentless. Step to me, I'm knocking you senseless. I planted my seeds, so don't try to uproot me. You do better trying to straight up shoot me. I'm not just a writer, I'm a real idealist. It won't be long till you're trying to steal this. Make your head swell till your eyes start to dilate. Yeah, sucker, you better not violate. Not one MC in the world, I'm afraid. I had to screaming my name like a girl when I slayed her. This is the long, cause I can't take a short take. Softer than cream between pieces of shortcake. There's no chance of you having a mistrial. The very next time that I get dissed out, sit back and write a rhyme stronger than Hercules. Funky boss, I go back and I circle these. Put them together, fix the conjunctions, and I'm a boss rhyme so my brain malfunctions. Dare to degrade my name, that's perjury. Wars declared, so prepare to have surgery. Cut you with a rhyme of such a high fidelity. Give a kick like a rolling and use it soft as a melody. Since you chalk, my rhymes will erase. You want a piece of that ass so bad I can taste your face. Rappers from whack, ill to even notorious. You may be clever, you be never victorious. I feel free now that I cleared this. How could I fell off, boy? I helped pioneer this. Boy, I helped pioneer this. Boy, I helped pioneer this.
I Pioneered This was definitely one of Shan's better joints lyrically, and the production was on point. A lot of layers in that beat. If you're listening for samples, Marley definitely did his thing. And Shan said, "Dare to degrade my name, that's perjury. War's declared, so prepare to have surgery. Cut you with a rhyme of such a high fidelity. I give a kick like a rolling and you soft as a melody. This is the long, cause I can't take a short take. You softer than cream between pieces of shortcake. There's no chance of you having a mistrial. The very next time that I get dissed out, sit back and write a rhyme stronger than Hercules. Funky parts, I go back and I'll circle these." You know, that's definitely that Rakim Mo D style that I talk about a lot recently. He's employing it very heavily on that. There's no chance of you having a mistrial. The very next time that I get dissed, I'll sit back and write a rhyme stronger than Hercules. Funky parts, I go back and I'll circle these. Of course, Hercules rhyming with circle these. One word rhyming with two. Shan definitely was at his a very high point on I Pioneered This.
Microphone stand is where I make my escape out of the blue. I see some rhymes that I should have taken. I used to say them off the top of my head, man, could I drop a megaton bomb that was all to stop a moving train? Hope I don't have to explain that any rapper stepping my way, he's bound to be slain. The stage is the court, I'm the judge and the juror, and when rappers pass me by, they should hail to their Führer. Although you may hate me and down to degrade me, there's some suckers walking around trying to co-imitate me. Never cursing or rehearsing, cause I'm so versatile, and you can tell by these words it's a freestyle. When the microphone calls, say a few ladies, say apple, or say home, yes, y'all. They gotta be ill, cause I don't write no frill. You used to love to hear the story, and you always will. We put the bullet bridge on book of plastic. Stick a snare, stick a snap like book of plastic. But the made the jibber jam classic. Come to think about it, we're respected so greatly, and you haven't heard of anybody dumping us lately. Never cursing or rehearsing. I'm so versatile, and you can tell by these words it's a freestyle.
Words of a freestyle. That last portion used to get so much rewind. You know, I remember I was senior year, 1988, 89. We put the brother bridge on book of plastic. Snicker snack, like book of plastic with the boom, babble, da, make a Jew jam classic. I mean, that's a technique. I really never heard anybody do anything like that on a record. I mean, I guess it's a little bit of onomatopoeia for those of us who studied those literary techniques in school, but just imitating the sounds of the bridge. And doing it so dope. That was one of the best things on that song. And again, I'll be getting soon into great producers on these lessons. I got a couple more MCs I definitely want to handle. You know, definitely Slick Rick, definitely KRS-One, and a few more MCs I like to really get deep into their lyrical styles. Then I'll be doing some producers. But Marley Marl again, if you listen to that song, you can hear a little bit of I Get Lifted in the background, multiple layers in the samples, and that's what made Born to Be Wild so sonically good. The way that Marley was definitely stepping his game up. And it's a lot of little chops and pieces that he's putting in the background of these songs. And for the sample heads, you can definitely catch, the horns and everything else he's put in the background. Always excellent work by Marley, and this is some of his finest, in my opinion.
Self-preservation, no one in reliance, and my rhymes are mainly based on mathematical science. I drink my wet on the rocks, Harvey's with Bristol, all about money and mics made out of crystal. My name will be praised, body preserved as a relic. More girlies than Bond, chillin' harder than Selleck. Wanna live in a castle with girls for romancing, feeding me grapes while they're fanning me dancing. Crispy and fresh, never can spoil. I've taken a vow to be honest and loyal. I'm happy to announce me and rapping I wedded. And breaking the vows are ground for being beheaded. People travel for miles to get where I'm playing. I hate to disappoint them, homes, dig what I'm saying. I'm a knight in shining armor. I rhyme, not joust, and I'll never rock a party when I play a house. Bound to go far, drive a Laredo, debate Aristotle, question theories of Plato. Rapping is with it, the journey is rough, and categorize the simple teenage stuff. Achieving my goal, do better than rocking. With light in my eyes, I can't see who be clocking. I'm a knight in shining armor. I rhyme, not joust, and I'll never rock a party when I play a house.
Never Rock a Party, another one of my favorites off that album. Bound to Go Far, Drive a Laredo, Debate Aristotle, Question Theories of Plato. Also a nice cadence that he's displaying on that one too. Shan, again, definitely underrated cat in this game. Definitely out of time to really do much more, but when you get a chance, check out a song that Shan did called Cocaine. He was never shy about his drug use and abuse. Talked about it, and still talks about it. But he had a song called Cocaine. And throughout the song, he did kind of like Nas did when Nas made this song where he's actually a gun. And, you could tell if you're listening, he doesn't really reveal that he's talking about a gun until the end. Shan kind of takes on that technique of metaphor where he's talking the entire time about this girl. Stay away from this girl. They call cocaine girl anyway. But he's talking about meeting this girl and his relationship with this girl. And at the end, he reveals that it's cocaine, and it's a really dope rhyme. And a very personal thing that people weren't really talking about their demons back at that time. So definitely check that out when you get a chance. And this is Jayquan, lesson number 19, M.C.Shan. Hope you found it educational, intriguing, enlightening, and all those good things. You can check me out on social media at Jayquan VA. You can check out the website, The Foundation, THAFoundation.com. Peace.
Never say a rhyme that's less than hooping. Beauty queens are the girls I'm scooping. This is just a small rap representation. Down with the juice, since the basic foundation. Blinded to the sight, to the touch, I'm scorching. Rhymes so deaf that they're worth a fortune. Bulletproof sneakers, a bulletproof vest. Killing like a villain from the old Wild West. Write one rhyme and for years you run it. I sit and write a rhyme, when I'm done get blunted. Come see a show cause it ain't like others. We roast, don't boast, and we're close like brothers. You better hold your girl when the crew walk by her. If one of us is skeezing, we just might try it. If you wanna step to us, there's no half stepping. Just say the words and choose your weapon. It's time for me to go, I'm at the end of my bars. M.C.Shan and I'm down with the Juice Crew.